and acknowledge the importance of the lands we occupy and from which we benefit. Today, let's reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to improve relations between nations, our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. Let's remind ourselves that wherever we are, we live on the ancestral lands and unceded territory of Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people. Next slide, please. Okay, just a quick overview. The pop-up PD for literacy educators is a free webinar series developed by Ontario's LBS regional networks and provincial support organizations for literacy. They are meant to support LBS practitioners through presentations on topics that are important to the field. English language webinars are presented for LBS practitioners annually and have been since 2015-16. And all webinar presentations, recording links, and transcripts are available on the pop-up PT resources for LBS educators website. Webinar topic ideas are always welcome, and you can send those through to echannel@contactnorth.ca. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so first up, we have Robin Aranyai. I hope I didn't massacre that too badly. Robin has been working with the Prince Edward Learning Center since 2021 and is currently on contract as a communications coordinator. Robin has previously worked in communications for the government and post-secondary and charitable nonprofit sectors. He is also a freelance columnist with Post Media News and a founding member of the Refugee Resettlement Group, PEC Syria. So Robin, welcome, and I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you very much. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome. Prince Edward Learning Center is a, can we just go to the next slide? Thank you. It's an adult learning center in Prince Edward County, and we take a very comprehensive approach to literacy. As you can see, we work on financial empowerment, numeracy, workplace upskilling, civic engagement, advocacy. And so one of our big challenges in marketing is to communicate to the community and prospective donors and learners the wide variety of services that are available. Next slide, please. So we are a geographically dispersed area. We have about 25,000 people living on an island in Lake Ontario with minimal public transit. And we do have a lot of issues with marginalized housing and explosion of Airbnbs. And so those are starting to affect us at the Learning Center. So just to give you a bit of an overview of whom we serve. Next slide, please. This is just an overview. So literacy and essential skills is one of the core functions at Prince Edward Learning Center. Next slide, please. We also have a youth training and employment program that helps people overcome barriers to employment and places them in paid training and learning opportunities. Next slide, please. We have a robust financial empowerment department that does free tax clinics with the Community Volunteer Income Tax program. We give financial workshops and we help people navigate financial systems and screen them for benefits that they may be eligible for. Next slide, please. And we also run 3 community food markets to help address food deserts and make fresh fruits and vegetables more readily accessible and available to the community. Next slide, please. We took part in a 3-year pilot project to assist with improving high school graduation rates through the Greater Than County Youth Collective. Next slide, please. And we have a lot of other initiatives that reflect community impact, including developing community benefits frameworks to help guide new development in this area, of which a lot is coming. Next slide, please. So some of those slides that we just saw are part of a regular presentation that we might give to community agencies when we're out in the community. And then I'm going to dive into the rest of our marketing strategies and our brand identities. Next slide, please. So you can see here we just have some vertical and horizontal versions of logos that we use. Next slide, please. This is an overview of our marketing strategy. We focus mostly on free media, so that's the biggest column. And I'll run through some of our social media campaigns. Our program coordinators run their own social media. And so a tool that we find useful to support that is the brand kit in Canva. That's a place where we can put all of the good versions of the logo, our color numbers, our fonts. We use MailChimp to send newsletters to our audience. We have a new website that we launched this year, and so we use blogs to repeat the information that we are promoting in our newsletters. And we also take advantage of several community directories in our local newspapers, on community radio, and occasionally through cable. We also have announcements made on bingo night for our free tax clinics. Our basic strategy is to go everywhere where our learners might be. We try to meet people where they are in the way that we approach our services and in the way that we market our services. We also take advantage of earned media opportunities with news coverage through media releases, news releases, and direct relationships with local reporters. We have a wonderful community radio station that has arranged interviews with us to promote particularly our financial empowerment services, but also markets and other things going on. And as I mentioned, we have lots of overlap with community agencies and community networks. The small column here is for paid media. I won't spend too much time on that, but we do. Sorry, I'll just see if I can read it. I will go through some of the print collateral. We have a roadside sign with those ugly magnetic letters, and a lot of people go by that and see that. So we use that, and we also have sponsored radio spots. This is a bit of a cheat. It's paid media, but it's not paid by us. Our community radio station arranges for the spot to be, I think, 15 seconds of advertising for us. And then there's a wraparound message from the business that is sponsoring. So that's a great opportunity. Next slide, please. So here on social media is an example of a Facebook post. This is promoting a book club that sort of morphed into a knitting club. We find that these channels are not only good for marketing and driving registration, but as a first point of learner contact. So people will reach out on Messenger to connect with the coordinators and end up getting into the intake process. And social media also is great for volunteer and donor appreciation. Next slide, please. So our fall program recruitment lineup included this book club, a friendship and growth group, a creative writing circle, a vision boarding exercise. We're working toward guitar lessons. And these opportunities really are all about marketing connection. People coming out of COVID, we found, were looking for connection, and connection supports learning. And so by providing these opportunities, people are building soft skills, and sometimes they are really fruitful. We have one member of this friendship and growth group who is an older lady who has decided to go back and complete her high school diploma. So that can be really rewarding. Next slide, please. This is an example of donor recognition. So one of those piggyback sponsor radio ads I was talking about was sponsored by Home Hardware, and they were promoting our community market hours. We talked with the manager, and they donated a large number of branded bags that we can use at the checkout. So we can give them some brand recognition, and then we in turn amplified their donation on social media. So there's a nice mutual recognition and support going on there in the community. Relationships are very important. Next slide, please. So this is a preview of our new website, which we launched in June, and our focus is on community impact and engagement. It's written for multiple audiences, and so we tried to keep simple language for people who may be low literacy, and there's a big focus on testimonials, so telling the story in the first person. Next slide, please. So as you scroll down, these are some of the blog posts, and they illustrate different market audiences. One is geared to people using our market. One is geared to learners to do something for you this fall. And then our annual report is geared to our community at large, donors and community agencies. Next slide, please. And toward the bottom of the main page, you'll see an example of engagement is this action call here. Are you looking for a way to make a significant impact? Learn about the many ways you can help. So most pages end with either a call to action or a contact form where people can subscribe for more information. We also keep a prominent donate button on every page because we are a charitable nonprofit. And in the footer, you'll see that there's a sign up for our newsletter. So we're driving engagement that way. Next slide, please. This is an example of a testimonial. You'll see Heather's face everywhere. She's, or Haley rather. She gave us a great testimonial, and we just use it as much as possible. Next slide, please. So our website performance is assessed. Google Search Console sends these emails that let us know about clicks and impressions and who's looking at it on what kind of device. Next slide, please. And then there's more in-depth information. So the number of clicks, impressions are the number of times people have seen our website address in their search results. And the click-through rate is how many times that's what they were looking for and they clicked on it. And then your average position tells you a little more about your search engine optimization. Next slide, please. Newsletters are another big way that we communicate with our audience. Our schedule is content driven. We try not to pepper them with emails on the first of the month, but just when we have something that we want to share. MailChimp is a mixed bag in terms of how that supports us. It does track clicks and opens, and you can get a free account with up to 500 contacts, and you could send an email to 500 contacts twice a month for free. Beyond that, you have to subscribe. It also is CASL compliant, so anti-spam legislation is covered, and that's important. There are some negatives working with MailChimp. If you try to write a long one, like an annual report, it can get clipped by some email clients. And the graphics are pretty limited, so I work hand in hand with Canva graphics to support that, which would get that neat little ampersand on the page. You can't import a newsletter into a WordPress blog. You have to reproduce it. So that's one of the limitations. And another is that this really is a site that's designed for e-commerce. So it's just not quite a perfect fit, but it does work well. And we build our audience. We have people signing in at the front desk when they come to visit the Learning Center, and they have an opt-in option to sign up for the newsletter. And also when we get photo consents, they have an opt-in. Next slide, please. So a campaign report would tell you how many people opened their email, how many times it was opened, which means some people are going back and reading it twice or more, bounces, and then at the bottom it shows us how much revenue we continue to not earn. Next slide, please. Print collateral. This is an example of an annual report that we printed in, it's a booklet form. The last two have been digital, so we don't do this every year. There is a link on here when you get your slide decks. If you want to check it out, it does translate to a flip book, which we have posted online, and you can see that it just has a little bit of information about each program and then a testimonial to support that program. We also are printing new rack cards for an upcoming promotion and fundraising campaign. And we use stickers at events. And then the last innovation is the one that I'm really quite proud of is our pocket guide. Next slide, please. So this is based on a traditional zine, like a non-commercial underground publication that people would use to sort of seize the means of printing. And you can do it with a photocopier. They're often hand-drawn. And so it folds with a pair of scissors. You can make a mini booklet of 8 panels. It's not really for a lot of deep information. It's great for breadth. And so this is a good and cheap way for us to showcase the breadth of programs that we offer. And we don't worry too much if people don't keep them around. Next slide, please. So here we just run through the programs and you can see we've used QR codes to link to various websites and leaned into the kind of hand-drawn look of the zine format. Next slide, please. So the youth program has its own website, so it's got its own QR code. Next slide, please. And our markets also have a website for ordering online. And next slide. And this is the back page. So Canva produced this. I would not really recommend that Canva is the best tool for this. It's not a versatile design program, but it's got a lot of good templates and a lot of good graphics and stock photography. It also has the capacity to generate free QR trackers, or you can use a subscription-based QR tracker if you want to pay for knowing how many times people have scanned your tracker. Next slide, please. So I have one example here of an earned media story that I thought I would share. This is the Macaulay Village Park Revitalization Project. And Jen, our Essential Skills Coordinator, spearheaded this initiative. And it is a community with, it had quite an underserviced park, and it is a community where a lot of our learners live. And so she hosted, with County Kids Read, an event in the summertime called a Reading Roundup, and they give away free books. And they had a barbecue and tried to get people engaged with what kind of park improvements they might like. And that became a really great opportunity for civic engagement and advocacy. And so learners became involved in researching and presenting council depositions. They helped to research and apply for grants, and it became a really big community-wide project. It had a lot of help from this reporter, Jason Parks, he covered the first barbecue, talked about how underserviced the park was relative to others. And so he continued to follow that story through tree plantings, through, new park equipment being installed. And it really became an excellent multifaceted project for learners. And I would encourage you, if you're interested, to contact Jen about that because it was quite amazing. So my job really is just to celebrate those kinds of successes and support the people doing the great work at the Learning Center. Next slide, please. So that's it. That's us. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Appreciate that. Was a lot of information in that short little time frame. So I'm sure once we all digest it, we may have other questions for you. And I remind everybody, feel free to put any questions you have into the chat, and we will be entertaining questions at the end as well. So I see Jim has put one in the chat now. Robin, maybe you can take a look at that.
Yep.
For now, we will move on to our second presentation. So Stacey, if you could, yes, thank you. So I want to introduce Warren Butler. And Warren has worked in the adult literacy field with Sue Hudson Literacy Council and Good Learning Anywhere. And that's been for 15 years. Specializes in marketing, building brand awareness, and growing the organization for the sustainable future through continuous improvement and efficient process management. Warren is passionate about education technology and providing learners with innovative tools and resources that will help them achieve their goals. So at this time, I will turn it over to Warren.
That's great. Thanks, Heather. Appreciate the warm introduction. Thanks, everyone, for having me here today. I'm happy to represent Sue Hudson Literacy Council and our Good Learning Anywhere online distance learning program. So we can go to the next slide, and I can tell you a little bit about what I had planned to talk about today. I'll give you a brief overview of who we are and kind of what we do at Good Learning Anywhere. And I'll share a little bit about our target audiences that we're working with. And then when we start getting into some of the marketing pieces, I'll talk about some things that have worked for us over the years, such as some of our branding guidelines, some of the social media pieces that we've been involved with. And I've got a few general campaigns. I think they were general enough for everybody. You could probably get something out of it that seemed to work for us. So just a small sample there. And then I'll share some of the marketing tools I've used over the years. Like there's, there are hundreds, but I'll just share some of the general ones that seem to have been sustainable over the years. We can go to the next slide. Awesome. So just a quick little background on myself. As Heather mentioned, I have worked with Sue Hudson Literacy Council for 15 years. I started off as a part-time instructor teaching classes in the evening, and I really didn't understand a whole lot of what online learning was all about. And next thing I knew, 15 years later, I'm still here. So I do a lot of our marketing. I do a lot of our communications. I do the branding side of things is very important to me. I take a lot of pride in that. And I also work within our student information system. So basically our lifeline of our organization, our database, our registration platform, our certificates, our learner plans, everything goes in this master database, our websites, and then I also look after a lot of different projects as they come up. I am based out of Toronto and happily married for over 22 years. I have two boys. Alex is 19, Owen is 17, and we have a Labradoodle named Bauer, who is 6 years old. Keeps us busy. So just to give you just a little bit about who we are. So I mentioned Sue Hudson Literacy Council, and I would position that as being almost like a parent organization. And then we have two programs that offshoot. And our head office, if we can call it that, is based at a Sioux Lookout. And there is a literacy and basic skills program running in Sioux Lookout. And then the second program, which I'll focus more on today, is Good Learning Anywhere. And we provide free online distance learning opportunities for adults in Ontario to assist them in upgrading reading, writing, math, computer, and other essential skills. So we're the lead e-channel service provider for the Indigenous stream. So with our target market, we are focused on Indigenous adults, residents of Ontario, and I don't know if it's our specialty, but we tend to really focus more on those northern, rural, remote communities. And within our last fiscal year, we worked with learners from over 320 different communities. So our program over the last 20 years, the reach has really expanded, which is something we're quite proud of. Like many literacy and basic skills programs, the target range for those suitability characteristics are aged 45 to 64, that's been the same target since I started. However, the Indigenous population across Canada is very, very young, and it's getting younger all the time. So sometimes that becomes a challenge when we're marketing our services, but we do the best that we can in that area. The other thing I'd make note of is our target markets aren't just necessarily adult learners. We're going to have other clients. It could be partners, it could be funders, it could be, support organizations, government agencies, anyone that you're trying to interact with. And I would even include employees, staff members as clients as well. Like there's a lot of support that needs to go in that direction. So that's something that we emphasize our time on as well. Next slide. One of the things I learned a long time ago, and when people are trying to understand like who you are and like what do you do, and someone told me about you should always have like a 30-second elevator speech. Like, how can you explain yourself briefly, concisely, so they get it? And on the slide, I put up a few different characteristics that you might want to include in your elevator speech. But mine might be something like, busy schedules often hold people back from learning. Good Learning Anywhere offers free online courses for adults in Ontario. We help people build job skills, develop life skills, or even prepare for college, all on their own time. Flexible learning, real results with real people supporting and mentoring adults along the way. Check us out at goodlearninganywhere.com. Don't delay and register today. So with that kind of an elevator speech, you could see there's kind of talk about what the problem is, what you do, how are you unique, how are you different from everyone else, and then there needs to be a call to action. So that might be something you could take away from today that you would want to work on, but I think it's something good to always keep in your back pocket. Next slide. This has been something I've been kind of working on over the years, and I think we're in a good place right now, but I think it's important to create some branding guidelines. You really have one chance to make a first impression, and it could very well be that 30-second elevator speech. But even when people are going to your site, you only get one chance, because if they don't like it, they may not come back. But just having some of these guidelines, it's just a tool. It helps with consistency, ensuring that your message, is delivered effectively. People remember it, they'll come back, they'll give referrals, and that essentially will lead to organizational success. If we go to the next slide. And it's kind of, within your guidelines, you want to create an identity. Like, who are you? Like, who is Good Learning Anywhere? And we spent a lot of time just working on our logo, and more specifically, the icon. And you can see within the icon, within our logo, it uses very warm and earthy color tones. The colors are similar to a traditional medicine wheel, but not quite the same. The circles are also open. So what that is signifying is that people can come into our program and they can leave at any time. A couple of years might go by and life happens. They might sign up for another course and they'll come back into Good Learning Anywhere. You can see arrows at the top of the icon, and the arrows are kind of pointing towards you, and it gives you a sense of direction, and that's people coming into the program. And where those arrows are pointing to, it almost looks like two books. One has lines on it, which could signify maybe a book, whereas the other one could maybe signify the shape of a tablet or a smartphone or a mobile device of some kind. And then right down the middle, which is very, very subtle, is a bookmark. And the bookmark, just represents that place where people can always go back to, whether it's a book and they want to flag a page, or it's a website and you want to bookmark a page to go back to later. So it's important to identify who you are and help, explain that to people. I think it's very important. We'll go to the next slide. So within our branding guidelines, it's important, identify your colors, what types of fonts you want to use, your recommended sizes. It's important for me, and I'm not a control freak, but I want to know where our information is going and making sure that we're following all the ministry guidelines when it comes to marketing, and we're using the right colors and sizes. Again, going back to keeping things consistent and whatnot. With all the information that is in the market right now, don't be afraid to use bold colors. We need to stand out. We need to find ways to promote our programs. Colors help. We want to use fonts that are easy to read and make sure that, whether it's the size, the color, the backgrounds, whatever that might be. But just a few things to keep in mind for your own branding guidelines. Next slide. As far as social media goes, we're more on Facebook, and that seems to be where our learners are. They're very active in Facebook, and we've noticed over the years the demographics vary quite a bit. But Facebook has been around a long time, and people are familiar with it. They're comfortable with it. It's changed and evolved over the years, but generally speaking, it's been pretty stable. Like it hasn't gone through a lot of change. And with our Indigenous communities, sometimes, people can be transient. They'll move from community to community, or they have to move for jobs, but they want to stay in contact with communities and their families and friends back home. So Facebook seems to be a great tool, and we try to leverage that as best we can. We have done Facebook ads, and I'll share some of that information later, but it's very affordable. It's very simple to use. The results are very good from our perspective. And as we know, there's Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. Now it's called X, but it's hard. I think each social media platform it fills certain voids. And if you have a large team and you have a marketing department and you have the staff and funding, all these other tools might work. They take a lot of time. You're always trying to come up with content. But, for us, Facebook seems to be pretty straightforward. Next slide. So I'll go over just a few campaigns and results. I won't go into everything that we've done, but these might be a few things that can help or just generate some ideas for yourselves. We'll go to the next slide here. We've done a lot of open houses, just online sharing circles, and we've really enjoyed bringing in guest speakers. I think people, I think people get tired of hearing my voice, but they would like to hear from others. And this is Candace Eskimo. She owns her own catering business. She's from Manitoulin Island, but we invited her and she provided an interactive cooking class on Zoom. and she was cooking chili for us, and we also cooked some scones and Three Sisters soup, and it was just a very relaxed environment where we could just talk about food and share tips and hear a little bit more about Candace and her background and her success stories, as well as her challenges, all at the same time promoting entrepreneurship and inspiring learners along the way. Our other campaign that we've done in the past as well has been Facebook ads. And we've done it on a few different occasions. This particular one was really just more of an awareness campaign. It was really just a flyer that we put out, who we are, or what we do, what we offer, how to contact us. Very straightforward. I had $150 to spend for a month, and I targeted Northwest Ontario, very specific communities, very specific interests that people would share in their Facebook profiles. And very quickly, we saw results like 154 people liked our Facebook page. We had 45 different people sharing our page. And with some of the Facebook analytics, the free analytics that come with it, that one particular campaign reached over 7,200 people in Northwestern Ontario, which was good. Next slide. This is something we've done a little bit more regularly. It's just something we call GLA This Week. It's just a quick, easy summary of some of the live classes that we have that are coming up. We use generally the same template. It's circulated very consistently once a week through Facebook. And we try to include a variety of different class topics, just so there's something there for everybody. And these seem to have gone over very well over the years too. Next slide. So as far as marketing tools, there's so many and there's new ones coming out all the time. But some of the general ones that we've used for graphic design has been Canva, which we've heard about today. PictoChart is another one, very affordable. You can do a lot more than just posters. Pixabay.com is good if you're looking for images that are free to use, that you have the rights for. Some of the editing tools that I like to use is remove.bg. So this one you can upload an image and will remove the background. So just what the focal point is in the picture will stay, everything else gets taken out. And it's nice to play around with that. TechSmith Capture if you do screen recordings or you need to clip something out of a screen. That's very handy. Videos, a lot of people like videos. We're not big YouTube producers, but there's a lot of information on YouTube. So we really like using that to share resources. And then we're dabbling in AI a little bit right now. I think a lot of people have heard of ChatGPT, which has been good. And one I've been liking a little bit more lately has been Google Gemini, which has been a neat tool to explore. Next slide. So why do people choose GLA? I think a lot of it does come back to marketing, but I think for many programs, it comes down to experience. A lot of our staff have been here well over 10 plus years, which is not common in the literacy field. Sustainability, we've been doing online distance learning for well over 20 years, which is somewhat unheard of. And over those years, many partnerships, lots of great relationships. Obviously, culture inclusion is a big part of what we do. And offering flexibility and variety in how courses are delivered, what people want to learn, just keeping that at the forefront. And then the mentorship, knowing that learners are supported by real people, not AI chatbots. There's a real person on the other side supporting learners. Next slide. So is our marketing working? I think so. Absolutely it is. Our fiscal year starts April 1st of 2024. And we're going to achieve 100% of our targets. Again, I think it might be the third or fourth year in a row. But I think we're going to hit that milestone by December. I think before the holiday break, we will have achieved our targets in 9 months. And our focus this year with marketing hasn't really been on recruiting and trying to find new learners and offer new programs and services. We're doing what works, and people are attending and registering. So we're going to have more of an awareness campaign that we're just trying to keep our brand and our name in front of people and remind people that we haven't gone anywhere. We're still here. So I'm hoping with today, there's going to be a lot of different marketing tools, a lot of different tips and advice. And I'm hoping that if we all take a little bit from today, we can kind of bridge that gap to a brighter future, which I think the synergies with our first presentation, just some of the language that we're using, I find very fascinating. But we can bridge that gap and use marketing as a tool to do that. It does take time. It's not going to happen overnight. I think, working with one learner at a time, those referrals by word of mouth really, really start to grow. So I'm hoping that's what we can get out from today. The next slide. But if anyone ever wants to reach out, or you have questions, or just want to do some brainstorming, my email address is on the slide here. If you want to see some of the marketing that we've put together and kind of see it in action, you can find us on Facebook and then our website as well at goodlearninganywhere.com. So once again, thank you guys for having me here. I will run into the text chat. I'll see if there's anything in there for me, and we can carry on to the next presentation.
Great. Thanks, Warren. Much appreciated. I think there's so much information in your presentation. You called it Marketing 101, but and that's always great for those of us who are, just now venturing into the marketing end of things. But I think there's a lot there for more advanced marketing as well. So very much appreciated there. I just have one question before we move on to the next presentation. And this is just to demonstrate, one of your slides indicated that Good Learning Anywhere will meet their targeted learners probably by December of this fiscal year. And just to indicate to people just what kind of a target we are looking at. I know eChannel has much higher targets than the Classroom LBS program. So would you mind just telling us what the target is? Because I think that will go a long way showing just how effective your marketing probably was to be able to reach that number of learners.
Yeah, for sure. No, our target has been 1,300 learners. It's increased over the years. I think when I started, I think our target was maybe 120 learners. So that seems to grow. We often request from the ministry if we can take on more learners, would they be willing to fund us? And we've been kind of sitting tight. It's just been slow incremental growth, but I'm pretty confident we can do a lot more, but it certainly requires the funding to go with it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to make that clear that like you are effectively reaching that many people and more, because not everybody that hears about it will register. So, um, thank you for your presentation. Up now we have Ambreen Ahmed. Ambreen is working as an executive director of the Metro Toronto Movement for Literacy, which is a nonprofit organization that supports adult literacy in Toronto and York region. Possessing a master's in English literature and in educational planning and management, Ambreen has maintained successful positions as a vice principal, English language instructor, HR manager, communication executive, and literacy practitioner. She is also the co-founder of Study Pages, which is a free online tutoring platform that provides tutoring across Canada. Ambreen's previous work experience and lifelong learning certificates and diplomas bring a wealth of information to develop learning strategies, recruitment procedures, relationship building, and governance at MTML. Her dedication and determination in helping individuals grow and develop are highlighted in all her professional achievements. So I turn it over to you now, Ambreen.
Thanks, Heather. It always sounds nice. Your bio sounds nice when somebody else is reading it. So, okay. So thank you for inviting me. I'm at Metro Toronto Movement for Literacy. Just a brief overview that, like Quill, we're a support organization, and so our regions are Toronto and York region. Our marketing and outreach is different than service providers who are in Toronto and York region, but I think our focus has always been to develop relationships with community organizations just to improve referrals for our programs or to build those relationships for better service coordination. So I'm going to focus on that area besides the other work that we do. Please, next slide. So today I'm going to talk about Connecting to Learn initiative, how it came about, because that's where I'm going to start talking about the marketing that we use and the engagement approach, because it was what started as something different ended up successfully in something different. So I think that's very important, and what the outcome is. Next slide, please. So it all started 2 years ago. And I know the biggest issue that we have, especially the literacy sector, is marketing budget. We were asked by the ministry to develop better relationships or to reach out to the community partners and talk about literacy, which we had been, but money is always a constraint. So back in 2022-23, our first step was, and this is before we came up with the idea of Connecting to Learn, because we thought, okay, our first step should be, let's send out a survey to people we know just through sitting in different groups. So everything was on Zoom because of COVID. So we sent out a survey to around 90 service providers in Toronto, and Toronto and York Toronto is a big area. It's a big region. So there are many community services. There are many employment services over here. So our focus remained on community service providers, not necessarily employment service providers. And we sent out that survey, brief survey, just to find out what their needs were, what the gaps and challenges were. So 90 emails were sent out. How many responded? 11. We were running out of time, so we just captured that and moved on to the next year. Luckily, next year we also got some funding. And that was a year where we said, okay, we need to change our strategy. And what can we do that we bring everyone together so that even our service providers, no, the same slide is fine. Our service providers can develop that relationship, or it could open up doors to new partnerships. That is where our idea of Connecting to Learn came up. Again, as Robin was talking in the beginning about Canva, and again, I think it's very important that before you start marketing or doing outreach, you have to know the purpose, who your audience is, why you're calling them together, right? And what are your limitations? We knew that we had to have an event. The venue was smaller because it was our first time. We knew how many people we were supposed to call. It couldn't be a public wide, and I mean anyone could not come. It was an exclusive event, so we were careful about what list we were going to create on connecting those community services. We did reach out to the same list of 90 people we sent out the invitation to in the previous year, but we shortlisted it by taking out all the employment services out of it. The reason was that we were trying to target those community services that were serving underrepresented groups or marginalized groups, and not necessarily employment, just so we could find out what their training needs could be, and maybe our literacy programs could help them. And that would improve partnerships as well. So next slide, please. Okay, so what we did. Now, as I mentioned, that where we started as a survey, this time we engaged in a different way. There were two ways. First, we sent out an email. And to be honest, emails at times they go in spam, which has happened a lot. And then, so we started with emails, and then we used to call them. Again, limitation or the organization capacity of staff is always there in our literacy programs. So we had hired or contracted 2 individuals who were in this project. So we sent out emails. Then we followed up with those emails by 1 phone call. We left a voice message just introducing who MTML was. And there were many times we just left a voice message, nobody called back. We kept on calling till somebody did not pick up. There was this other staff who was assigned, okay, and we divided our list. So half of the staff was doing emails and then calls, half of the staff was doing just calls. And it was very strenuous, to be honest, but we kept to it. The aim of that first call or that first point of contact was to set up a Zoom meeting. So Zoom meeting would be with either the manager, and as an executive director, I used to be in the meeting, as well as a project lead. So we had to make sure that whoever we were contacted knew that we were giving them importance, so the senior management was involved. So that was one thing, and I'll talk about it a little bit about it in the upcoming slides. And then what we did was, while we were reaching out to these community groups, we offered them that it's going to be all about you, not us. So we offered to create virtual kiosks, or I mean, they're up on our website. So we had to make those booths. We got them to fill out information, so we told them we're going to showcase your services or your programs on our website. And I get it that organizations may have a different marketing department. So again, it depends on what your limitations are. We could do it easily because everything was being done by 2 or 3 people. So we did this. We thought, okay, what should be the agenda of the day so that everybody stays till the end of the day? It shouldn't be that first half hour while we're presenting everything and then everybody leaves. So we had to make the agenda in such a way that the speakers who were going to come and, present would be someone everybody is interested about. And then we had a pre-meeting with speakers. I think this approach works so much when you're organizing an event. Before any event, we always call together all the presenters or the speakers so that each one of them gets to know each other before the event date. Day of. And we like to see the flow of things. So that's where they decide how the flow of things goes. So again, that also helped. That approach really helped in the success of our event last year. And then we hosted an all-day forum after the event was done. Next slide. Okay, so messaging. Again, our messages were very, very consistent. We said this event is going to be about you. Audience is going to be us. So we started with that we're organizing a day where we want to learn about you. So that was the catch of our first communication that we made. That's where they did start like, oh, okay. So when we said, no, it's going to be a day about you and LBS is going to be the audience, I think that's the sentence that did capture everyone. It's our second year of doing this event this year, and that's still working. Communication, emails and phone calls. And yes, that would both ways. And communication, make sure the emails that are sent out are consistent, are the same, who's sending it. So those nitty-gritties have to be taken care of. It's not just communication and sending out emails. Who sends it out is also very important. The other thing which we did was while we were talking to these new community partners, we said, here are our resources which are free. So this was like, we're sharing something of ours with you. Use it. If you want more information, if you want us to come and talk to you about our programs, information sessions, that's how we supported them. So it wasn't only sharing, but it was also supporting them. So it's just that, again, our marketing was very specific to our event, but also long-term, we thought, okay, now's the time when we first reach out. We have to make it long-term because relationships are not built overnight. Next slide, please. So as I said, our focus was to learn about the services and programs they offered. So we did talk about, okay, what do you do? And once you show interest, right? And then we talk about what we do and what are the wraparound supports that are provided by them and what can literacy. So it's like a conversation. So, and that's what we said. We need to have a better understanding about you so that we can work together. I think that approach helped a lot. Next slide, please. When we had the Zoom session, and again, it was 30 minutes. We didn't make it an hour, just 30 minutes. And our purpose was, just sharing that information, talking to the manager, seeing what was it that we could offer. We did offer them these free resources. We talked about again, we made our conversations in such a way, sure, we want to learn about you, but in exchange, we're also telling you, oh, so you do have clients. Oh, so they do have upgrading issues. This is how we can refer. This is how our screening tool. So these are different tools that we created and we offered that for free for them. And I went as far as saying that, you know what, we can try it with your clients for free. Again, it depends on your limitations, on how much you can stretch yourself. So this is what made our event successful. And then we invited them to the forum, which was going to happen after the event. Next slide, please. And this we did a lot. We offered them, when we started talking about literacy, and believe me or not, there were a lot of organizations who did not know the difference between literacy and ESL programs. And that's where we said, okay, you know what, we need to talk to your staff. So in your capacity, if you're a service provider and you're talking to another community service, say, okay, so literacy, this is what we do. If there's no marketing department, if it's, again, you have the capacity, we told them, we'll come in, we'll do information sessions. And yes, it went up to 45 minutes, but we did many in person. Again, how much capacity you have. Zoom was easier, but I think last year only we did around 15 information sessions during this whole outreach. And we, at the same time with the staff, we provided them the referral process, some tools, and we just, we just shared stuff. Next slide, please. These virtual kiosks, and everybody loved it because the idea of us showcasing them, and it's a separate page on our website. So we asked them, we sent them a Google form. And we said, could you fill out the information? And yes, that form took around 15, 20 minutes to be filled out, but everybody filled it out because they wanted their organization to be showcased on our website. That was last year. This year we're repeating it, but what we're doing new is I'm creating a Google map with all the locations of these new community organizations that are attending, and making a spreadsheet of all their information through a QR code. So again, because it's in person, it's a very different one. It's going to be different as well. So yes, this approach really worked. This year, we're also going to have booths set up, and those booths will be, again, showcased on our website. Next slide, please. So the outcome last year was, again, it was a very exclusive event. It was only by invitation that people were coming, but we got 85 participants and our capacity was 100. So 85 participants, we had 12 new service providers, community services that attended and had a booth. This year, we continue doing that. And I think another tip would be that don't lose your communication with those who were called in the past. So those who attended last year, we made sure that even the next year, or even after the event, you keep in touch, no matter how, be it a small message, be a phone call, be it any event they're having, keep that relationship going, because if the gap comes in, then next time when you're organizing an event, that's where people say, because people are also, staff is changing so much that communication is very important. So this year, let's say, fingers crossed, we reached out to many, but so far 50 community agencies have registered. So now this year we have a bigger capacity, and so far 160 individuals have registered. Again, fingers crossed. I must say it is not an easy job. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of phone calls and emails going back and forth, but it's worth it in the end. Next slide, please. So what worked? For us, again, it depends what's the purpose. We used Canva for flyers, for videos. There's another one, Beyond, but again, that's a bit pricey. Canva is free. Canva Pro is free. So we use that one for our infographics or videos or flyers, which was very easy. Google Site, that is where our website is. We're using Google Site as our organizational website. And just putting up, and here's the thing, we created 2-3 kiosks or booths on our website. Those people who weren't giving us the information, we sent them a sample. This is how it would look. So then they would quickly fill out the form and provide us the information. So these are just a small tactics. This year, what we did, now I'm asking 50 organizations to provide me information. And honestly, in 4 weeks, out of 50, only 13 gave it. So today I just made a whole list of all the organizations that are attending, sent it to them, and I said, these are who are coming. I got 10 right away who filled out the information session. So again, these are small things, but they matter a lot. Branding, yes, MTML did not have previously a branding. So we're maintaining a brand so that, as Warren talked about, branding is very important for your organization. And some service providers may have a marketing department, others may not. So again, it has to be discussed. And communication has to be very consistent. At times I say, oh my God, where's my self-respect? I'm calling them 10 times, right? But in the end, I say, okay, no, one more call, one more email. So we've been making that. And we try to make it personal. I have seen people reach out and say, oh, thank you for calling. Because sometimes what happens, emails go out, they reach spam. And then when I call them, they say, oh, I'm glad you called. We didn't understand what was required. So again, messaging could be taken differently for people. Next slide. I think it's the end. Yeah. So I tried to do it very quickly.
Thank you, Amber. Wow, I got exhausted just listening to all the work you put into that. But obviously it's yielding great results. So thank you for sharing your strategy and just all of your work that you did to have success in marketing. All right. So next slide, please. Okay, so now I'll turn it over to Brandy Smith, and Brandy is the Executive Director at Literacy Link Eastern Ontario and is working on a variety of marketing projects for the Eastern Ontario network and the province at large. Brandy's goal is to advocate for literacy, reduce stigma, promote inclusion, and raise awareness of all the benefits that literacy programs have to offer. With a single marketing workshop as her credential in marketing, Brandy has gained experience and many skills by coordinating marketing, communications, and outreach in the public library system. So I'll hand it to you, Brandy. We'll say we have 20 minutes left in the webinar.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Heather, and thank you all. I've already learned so much just by attending this webinar here. Like I said, I only have one credential. So I am kind of like the amateur in the group. I'll be brief. I thought I have to, true confession, I thought that I would be able to share my screen and we'd have a little bit more time. So my PowerPoint is very simple, and I guess that kind of also goes to my point to keep it simple. What I'm working on right now is as a provincial network sponsored by MLITSD and Employment Ontario, just like we all are here. I'm working on an LBS marketing package. I do marketing for our LEO network, Literacy Link Eastern Ontario. I'm working on a bilingual LBS marketing package that is developing, sorry, I'm probably talking too fast. Developing marketing materials for employment services. For example, we're working on a one-pager for literacy question and answer, and a literacy awareness guide for job coaches. There's a lot of staff turnover and a lot of people in employment services don't really know what literacy does. I'm also developing a shareable social media calendar that I hope to share with the province once it's ready. Like Heather said in my introduction, my main objective and message is always advocating for literacy and reducing stigma first. Like Ambreen said, as a network, we don't necessarily have front-facing customer services or trying to reach learners, but we do have an opportunity to reduce stigma, promote equity, diversity, and inclusion, and like I mentioned before as well, community outreach to inform our partners and share what our partners are doing. So the general audiences I target in my messaging include the general public, employment services, potential donors and advocates. You're reaching out for your champions, decision makers. Like I always try to tag our members of parliament and our members of provincial parliament in select posts. So kind of put literacy and basic skills on the radar. Also potential learners and their families. We know that LBS learners aren't always, the technology for marketing is not always accessible for them. So I'm always keeping in mind that we're targeting people who might know a learner that they can refer to or might know someone who needs help with literacy. So my tip is, who is your audience? There's always different demographics that call for a different approach, like your legacy donors, your calls to action, and your learner recruitment, for example. So today I'm going to show you my top 5 marketing tools as an amateur marketer. So we can go to the next slide, please. So this is one of my favorites that is my always go-to is the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, CNIB Clear Print Accessibility Guidelines. This, let me change my slide here. So this helps us make the print we produce and as clear and readable as possible. So when you're making these print materials or online graphics resources, readability should never be an afterthought. When you're producing your materials, it should be the first step in making your information accessible to everyone. When you follow the clear print guidelines, you keep this in mind, you will reach a wider audience. So this is a link to the clear print accessibility guidelines. I have it on my desktop. It offers information about contrast and fonts and colors and everything to make your marketing materials more accessible.
Brandy, just in case you haven't seen it, Stacy has posted the link in the chat for everybody.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So next slide, please. Canva, we've mentioned it here before, so I'm going to be the final one to mention it. Just so everyone knows, Canva Pro has extra features that are free for nonprofits. So don't think you have to pay for a membership. It's all there. It's all free. And it's easy. Like I said, I'm an amateur, and if I can use it, anybody can. You can add your own branding. So all of your colors, all of your fonts and everything can be built in and easy to use in your marketing for consistency. You can also create multiple sizes of the same product. So when you're working with Facebook, Instagram, social media, and X, and print documents, I'm trying to think of all the things, you just copy and resize. So you have your package right there ready to go. And the next good thing about Canva is you can link it to your social media, which makes it easier for scheduling. So you can add your Facebook or Instagram account that you can connect and schedule right there from Canva. Next slide. So number 3 is the Clear Writing Works course from ABEA. So I took this course over the summer, and you learn about inclusive practices, web compliance. You learn about increasing accessibility and legibility, readability of your documents, and how to have clear communications and messaging all the time. So it's amazing once you look at a poorly written document and then a very clearly communicated document, you are unable to unsee that. So now when I am doing all of my readings, all of my creations, I'm trying to talk to my audience, not at them. So making sure you direct your communication specifically and accessibly. So the link should be there as well. Next slide. So if you're looking for marketing resources, Community Literacy of Ontario has professional development and training tools at the link included here. So if you want to develop your skills, you can go there and you learn a lot about marketing and training, but they also have prefabricated marketing materials and campaigns like Literacy Why It Matters, for example. They have it in multiple formats, so you can just drag and drop it into your marketing. Just another note here, ABC Life Literacy is also a great source of literacy promotional materials. I didn't include that one yet as a link, but they're a good one to go to for literacy promotion and awareness. So number 5 is your marketing plan. This will help you be efficient, effective, consistent, and on point in your messaging. So you can plan ahead with a social media calendar. Leverage your creativity and your graphically skilled team members. Some people have the vision more than others. So you can leverage that. Be creative. Don't be afraid to, this is one of my fun things I get to do is when I need a break, I go and I'll do some creativity and I'll go do some marketing stuff. So have your plan. Oh, there's also a link there on, I didn't get to add the link. LinkedIn has 5 basic elements of successful content marketing strategy that I can also send the link to as well. And in terms of social media for your marketing plan, keep in mind reciprocity. That's how you're going to build your community. Like and follow and share other people, other community services. It's easy to just post your own stuff, but you also have to, it's reciprocal. That will build your audience. Audiences like personal approaches. For example, one year at Christmas, I just happened to take a picture of one of our staff who was wearing like reindeer antlers in her hair bun at the back of her head. And I tagged it meanwhile at the library, and it went viral. Within an hour, everybody was talking about it. So it was impromptu, but people like the personal. They also like action buttons and good news stories. It's a good way to interact with your community. So my last tip is to keep it simple. I think Warren referred to this a little bit. The average person only retains 5 to 7 key ideas in their short-term memory. So think carefully about your key messages and what you want people to know about your school and the programs you offer. So keep it simple, hence my super simple slideshow. Next slide. So here's your test. Design examples, good or bad? You can post your vote in the chat or your reactions. So these are, yeah, these are obviously not the best examples. If you answered bad examples, then you got that question right. So you can see that obviously, the message here is not necessarily what we want to get on the left, and on the right, there's too much going on, there's too much clutter, the font is bad, it's just all over too much. So next slide, good or bad marketing. This is where you want to pay attention to your font, your spacing, your contrast, your alignment, visual clutter, or distractors. So the picture on the left, I can't believe that was an accident. And the picture on the right, spacing will matter. So good or bad, what do we think? Very bad. That's right. You all are super smart. So just so you know, like keep that in mind when you're look at it as a literacy learner sometimes and what they're going to be, how they're going to perceive your marketing. Next slide is the last slide, and we're done.
Okay, thank you very much, Brandy. I saw those slides in advance of everybody else, but until you went through your presentation, I did not see that massage therapist spacing issue. This time it was glaring in my face, but prior to that, so you
Yeah,
really
and it can be very nuanced, right? So that's from my perspective. If you just Google bad design, there you go.
Yeah, great. Stacy, can you just move to the very last slide? Right. So anyway, so that is the end of our presenters. We did finish 5 minutes early. So if there are any questions that anybody wants to ask, we do have 5 minutes to take questions. I believe, Stacy, they have to raise their hand to get a mic.
That's correct, Heather. And I'm just going to take down the PowerPoint slides if that's okay, so I can see everyone.
Sure. Okay. And so if anybody has any questions for any of the presenters, please just raise your hand. If you haven't already had your question answered in the chat, we're happy to get the answers now. While we're just waiting to see if anybody has any questions, I want to thank all of the presenters for excellent presentations today. I think we covered quite a bit of marketing. I think everybody had kind of a unique perspective that they brought to today's session, and so I think there was something there for everybody. I'm looking forward to going back and listening to the playback. And on that note, as Stacy has posted, a link to where you will be able to find the playback of this session. It will not probably be uploaded until next week, but yeah, so take note of where it is. I believe you may also get an email telling you when it's been posted as part of your participation in this webinar. There's a ton of other webinars that have been recorded and posted there as well. So, visit it on a day when you have time and are looking for information on a variety of subjects that Pop-Up PD has touched on in the last, since 2015. So lots of material. Also want to thank our ASL interpreters, Rebecca and Kim. As always, you've done a fabulous job. I don't know how you keep up with some of us who speak so quickly, but I thank you for your interpretation and so that we can reach those from our deaf community. So thank you. And thank you, Stacy, for all the behind the scenes work that you do, popping things into the chat, solving technical issues, moving the slides, everything. So much appreciated. I hope I didn't forget anybody. Okay, so I do not see any hands up at this time. So I am going to call the session over. I do ask you again to remember to fill in the evaluation survey that will pop up when you exit this webinar. Our next webinar is November 21st, and it's called No Average Student, Understanding and Fostering an Inclusive Learning Environment. So I welcome you all to register and attend that as well. And thanks very much for spending the afternoon with us. Have a good night.